Hey guys, how's it going? So I'm going to do our first multi-tool review here today. This is actually the third Leatherman that I picked up. It's the first one that I'm going to review because it's the one that I use the most. So if you're like me, you watch my channel, so you probably watch some of the other channels, Nut Fancy, Exacto, Cutlery Lover, all those guys. So you probably have a pretty good idea of what you need to do, the things that you need to carry with you to try to be prepared at any point in time. And if you're like me, you're not always good at carrying all those things. Also, coincidentally, if you're like me, you're maybe a high school or a college student, so you spend 5 days a week someplace where you're not allowed to carry a multi-tool with a knife on it. So I think this thing solves both of those problems in that it's very easy to carry a little multi-tool, that it definitely doesn't have as many or as high quality a tool on board, maybe not high quality, as heavy duty of a tool on board as other multi-tools do. But it clips onto a jean belt loop, so it takes up no pocket space, and there is no knife on board, at least in the PS variety. The CS variety does have a knife on board. But the PS is TSA approved, you can fly with it, you can carry it to school, it should be all legal. So I think that is awesome. I'm going to start, this is our first multi-tool review. I don't have a sheet worked up. I think we're just going to go through with a tool review. Got pliers here, this interesting little cam system, as opposed to the normal spring inside the housing of the pliers. I thought it was interesting. It's not a problem functionality-wise. The pliers, they're really little pliers. You guys can see how they are. So definitely not a high capability pair of pliers. I wouldn't use them for anything very heavy duty at all. The cutters aren't great. I don't know how to refer to this style of cutters, but they have a tendency to fold things over as opposed to just cutting through them. Not exceptionally sharp, sort of a steep angle on the grind, and yeah, then the pliers themselves just not exceptionally high. I don't want to say quality, again, it's just that they're not very robust. And as you guys can maybe see there, I have the remnants of a blood blister I got from having these in my hand, and I was choking up trying to get more pressure. And as you guys can see, it is easy, especially if you slip, to get your hand caught in there. And so yeah, just not a very heavy duty plier, definitely better than nothing, but I don't even really think the plier is what I've used most on this tool. And I have used this tool quite a bit at school and just in general. So moving on from the pliers, these interesting little Tanto scissors. Tanto scissors. So having them ground this way definitely isn't a problem functionality wise. I just don't know why they did it as opposed to a more conventional rounded grind. What is sort of a problem is they're pinned together and it's not an exceptionally tight pin, so if you're trying to do a cut where you're pushing down and trying to cut on something, it is possible to get the scissors to roll a little bit. Not cut what you're trying to cut and just have the material go in between them, and that's sort of a problem. So there, you got that. Maybe that's a problem with the spring system. Maybe they're not pinned tightly enough. I don't know. This little scale here, only one coloration in the PS variety. The CS variety has a whole bunch of different colors. Not sure why we can't have colors as well. Got the little tweezers here. These are fine. Again, sort of Tanto grind tweezers, which is interesting. Yeah, I've used them to pick out little splinters, stuff like that. They're fine. Those are, they're relatively standard. Not sure why the Tanto grind, but it's not a problem, so I won't complain about it. Stored right there in the little handle. And then we've got the file, and it's an interesting file, not an exceptionally useful one. It works pretty well for fingernails and not a whole lot else. As maybe you guys can see, probably not. You've got a, all around the file portion itself, it's actually got a little metal divot risen up. So, yeah, and then this bottom side is completely plain, so no notching ability. And this wouldn't be a great file for use on wood or metal or anything other than fingernails anyway. It's a fingernail file. Little for extraction, a thumbnail groove here. Honestly, I don't think we needed it, and it just reduces the already pretty small area of file available. And this bottom divot here, which is the portion that I use the most because you don't get to use this part here, so I tend to use the bottom. The divot does tend to get in between your fingernail and the cuticle, and that can be uncomfortable. So it's not a great nail file, and it's not a file intended for anything else, so that's sort of a bummer. That said, I do, with those complaints, I end up using it to file my nails when I'm bored in class anyway, so I guess maybe I shouldn't complain. Then you got one size straight blade driver there. I don't think I've ever used it as a driver. I have used it as a pry bar, which I know I shouldn't, but yeah, we've used that a little bit in my biotech class. Our equipment is sort of faulty, so I've used it before for that, and it worked fine. And then you've got, this is sort of funny, this is a bottle opener, as Leatherman tends to do with their carabiners. They've got a little bottle opener. I'm completely blocking you with my hands. A little bottle opener here. You just, slip the bottle in there and crank up. It's a little bit too small to really be worth anything. It's sort of a pain in the ass. You can definitely teach yourself to do it, but yeah, so there's a little mini tool review. Now just onto the general quality of the thing. Leatherman's got an interesting quality about their tools in general, in that everything seems to have a little bit of play, and that seems to be the only way that they operate well. So the pliers, they've got a little bit of play. Scissors, I've already talked about, have play. The file's got play. And, it's the clip itself is particularly, this carabiner clip section, particularly flimsy, kind of cheesy. Don't know why we couldn't get a little better on that. Maybe it's just this one, but I sort of doubt it. So yeah, it's an interesting point about Leatherman in general, but it definitely hasn't been a problem. I've never gripped anything with the pliers and had the pliers roll off because they had too much play or anything like that. It's just you can't, you should never mess with the torque screws on a Leatherman, as I've found out in my various adventures with the Skele-Tool. So I've left it how it is. I haven't tightened it up any. Maybe if it keeps, I don't want to say getting worse because it's about the same as it is when I got it, but if it were to get a lot worse, I would probably try to tighten it up. But yeah, useful little multi-tool. A couple of complaints quality-wise. Another one, this is just this carabiner section for clipping it onto your belt loop. It's the only thing I think it could be really used for. Is just a little bit too small to be really useful. You sort of have to fuss around with it in your belt loop. On a couple of pairs of my jeans you do anyway. I think that's a really convenient way to carry a multi-tool. It's available on this and the Skele-Tool. I really like that. It's part of the reason why I carry this thing so often, even when I'm not going to school and I could carry one of the other full-size multi-tools. I tend to carry this just because it's not in my pocket. And for that, combined with the size in general, and for not having a knife on board, you can carry it to school and to wherever you may work that wouldn't allow you to have even a little knife. I don't really think there's anything you can compare to it. These are going off at around 20 bucks, I want to say. And there's other little tool stuff in that price range, but they've all got a knife, and I don't think any of them are anywhere near the quality level of this. Just in the availability of the tools and the quality of the tools, the Leatherman 25-year warranty, they seem to stand behind that pretty well. Just so for all that stuff, I think it's definitely a unique piece, and I think there's a lot of systems that it wouldn't integrate well into, but if you're not carrying a multi-tool at all, and you've got 20 bucks to shell out for a multi-tool, and you don't want to give up the pocket space, I think you'll find that with something around the size of the Wingman, stuff starts getting really cumbersome, and something like this, you can clip it on your hip, you'll forget that it's there until you need it, and I definitely have used it more than I thought I would. Actually, interestingly enough, with the small size and having it being, easily available on my hip, I find myself using it more often than I would use like the Wingman if I had the Wingman in my pocket. Just the little ordeal of going into my pocket and getting the tool out takes longer with the Wingman, and it would influence how often I would use it. So definitely use this thing more often than any of my other multi-tools. If I don't feel like carrying one of the other ones, I've got this one with me, which is a surprising amount of the time. Got a little bit of complaints for the tools. Wish the scissors were a little bit more tightly riveted, and I wish it was just a little bigger in general, because I think you could get a better fit in the hand so that you could use the pliers better. I think, and then you could get the carabiner clip to be a good enough size to actually use. But other than those, like I said, there's nothing to really compare to this. There's nothing else in the price range that's anywhere near the quality, the convenience, anything like that. So if you don't carry a multi-tool, you should be carrying one. Definitely go ahead, think about picking up the Leatherman style. I think the PS is probably a better value than the CS, just because the CS is the same thing, but with scissors as opposed to pliers, and then a knife as opposed to scissors. So I think you're giving up some of your value there by taking the pliers away and replacing them with scissors. These scissors work fine for light duty tasks, and I don't think making them the little bit bigger, that putting them in this main jaw makes them a little bigger, but I don't think it's really gonna be a huge performance factor. I don't think you're going to get much better performance out of them. So yeah, that has been our first multi-tool review. Like I said, if you're a student, if you don't carry a multi-tool, definitely think about integrating this into your system. It's a little thing, doesn't cost very much, it's very convenient, and it will help you be prepared just on a day-to-day basis to handle small little tasks that will come up. So, hope you guys have enjoyed this review. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more of the same.